Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for FMT's presentation of Protect Your Files with Information Rights Management on SharePoint. My name is Lucas Darling, and I'm an account executive here at FMT, and I'm joined by our very own SharePoint practice manager, Matilda Miller. Before we get started, I'd like to just take a few moments to give you a brief overview of FMT and our company. We opened up for business in 1995, and since then, I've been able to successfully complete over 1,500 projects and accumulate over 350 clients spanning the U.S. and even into Canada. These are our core values which we like to hold ourselves to every day. They include integrity, service excellence, collaboration, innovation, and passion. The FMT way is something you really get to know once you engage with us and start a project with us. Our unique combination of talent, experience, and methodology fully dedicates us to the success of your company and your projects. With a full service offerings, we offer a wide array of services pertaining to ERP, CRM, SharePoint, BI, collaboration, and integrations. We have an entire department dedicated specifically to custom integrations as well. We have 13 full-time senior consultants for your customer care support. They're there from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and with deep experience in the industry, within systems, and pretty much all around. We have CPAs who are employed here, and we have just deep experience throughout the industry. These are just a few of our select clients that we get to work with on a daily basis. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Matilda, who will be guiding this webinar today. And if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat box. I will be monitoring throughout the webinar, and we'll address them at the end. Thank you. Matilda?
Hey, thank you for that introduction, Lucas. So today we're here to talk about information rights management. So the agenda today, so we're going to do a SharePoint security overview, just so we all have an understanding of how security is set up in SharePoint. And then why we would add information rights management on top of that, as well as how they work together. The next piece of it is we're going to discuss what information rights management is. What is this thing that we're talking about, and how does it work in conjunction with SharePoint? And then finally, I'm going to open the floor for questions and answers. So for the security overview, so we already know that inside of SharePoint, there are some security features there, right? So just to recap, security features are relatively easy to manage. There are also multiple levels of permissions. You can control user access with the permission settings, as well as permissions inheritance. So let's kind of break down a few of these pieces here. So for basic user security, right? So we have authentication and authorization. So a lot of times people mix these two up. But authentication is what verifies the user's identity, while authorization determines what the user can do. So every day I come into work, at the front door, there's a fob there, and I have to use my key fob in order to get in, right? So I get there, the key fob says, hey, this is Matilda, and then it says, okay, Matilda has permissions to open the door. The next piece of it is users permissions. So users permissions determine what the individual user is allowed to do inside of the system. Active Directory. So Active Directory works in conjunction with SharePoint. This is how you identify users. So it's synced with SharePoint. The next piece of it is SharePoint groups. So by default, when you guys go and create a site, right, there are typically 3 groups that are created. You have a owners group, and inside of that owners group, these people have full control of the site. And then you have a members group. So your members group has edit permissions to the site. This means that users can go ahead and add content as well as delete. And then finally, you have a visitors group. And inside of the visitors group, these people have read-only access to the site. So best practice inside of SharePoint says that things should be administered through a group rather than the individual. So kind of think about that for a second. So say you have a document library, right, and you want to add permissions to it. If you go ahead and you add permissions for individual users, whenever there's a change or edit, you have to go change permissions for that individual user. As opposed to having a group, you can place everyone in that one group, and you can go ahead and change permissions at the group level. It's a lot easier to deal with on the admin side, and it makes things a lot less messy. And then you have inheritance. So for inheritance, so inside of SharePoint, right, you have inheritance there. What happens is by default, when you create a site, the site is automatically inherited. So that means that every single thing in the site has the same permissions throughout. So if I have, so say I'm a part of that members group that we just talked about, right? So if I'm a part of that members group, this means that I have edit permissions by default throughout the entire site. And the only way that I can change that is if I break inheritance there, right? So if I break inheritance, I'm then able to change permissions at different sections within the site. So in the realm of SharePoint permissions, you can apply permissions at 4 different levels. So I can do it at the site level, and then I can do it at the sub-site level. I can do it at the document library. I can do it all the way down to the document. So this means that I can give someone permissions at that top level, and then I could say go to a document library that's for managers only. I don't want the rest of employees to see it. I can go ahead and break permissions here at that manager level so that other users in the site, aren't able to see it, but still have their normal permissions throughout the rest of the site. Okay, so let's just take a quick look inside at permissions. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is actually go into a document. I can go into a document library, right? So I'm going to go ahead and open up this document library, and I can hit the library tab here up in the ribbon and then click on library settings. So while I'm inside of library settings, I can also take a look at permissions for this document library. So I'm looking at permissions for this document library, right? So it's letting me know up here that the permissions are inherited from the root site. So the only way to change that is if I were to go here and stop inheriting permissions, right? So for right now, I'm just going to leave everything the same. So the groups that we talked about the owners group that's here that has full control. We also talked about that members group that has edit or contribute permissions, as well as that visitors group that has read permissions, right? So what happens then if I decide, you know what, for this particular library, I want this one to be for managers only, but I don't want to disrupt permissions throughout the rest of the site. So what I would do in regard to that, right, is just go ahead and click on Stop Inheriting Permissions. So once I stop inheriting permissions, it lets me know that permissions are no longer inherited, right? So what I want to do then is get rid of everyone else that I don't want to have access to the site. So I just select all of them, right? So I'm just going to unselect the 3 groups that I have here, and I'm actually going to remove permissions for everyone else that's on the site. So I'm just going to click on Remove User Permissions. All right, so these users' permissions are now gone. So now the only 3 people that are here, the only 3 groups that are here are the members, owners, and visitors. So let's say I'm inside of this library, right? And I can restrict access, but I can also change people's permissions levels, right? So I'm saying when it comes here, when it comes to the visitors, I don't want visitors to be able to read this either. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove these guys too. But when it comes to my members, right, they have contribute permissions, which means, of course, they can add and delete. I want them to have access to this library, but I don't want them to be able to add content or delete content. So then I can go ahead and just edit that user's permissions. So I can come in here and say, okay, I now only want you to have read. So I hit OK here. And inside of this particular library, visitors don't have access, right? But members can now just read, and the owners still have full control. So let's take a look at what this looks like, at the top level. So I'm just going to click on the gear here and go to Site Settings. And then I'm going to click on Site Permissions, all right? So I'm inside of Site Permissions in here, and you see all those groups that were there that we removed, because remember, we only made the change on that one library. So here I'm getting a message. It's letting me know that some content on the site has different permissions. So this is how you would recognize that something on your site has unique permissions. So I'm just going to hit Show These Items here. So I can hit show these, and remember we were in the documents library, so it's letting me know that documents has different permissions. So I could go here. So in the event someone made an error and these things shouldn't be happening, and I want to go back to, inheriting those permissions, I can just come here again, and then I can just delete unique permissions. All right, so everything just went right back to normal. So let's go ahead and get into some information rights management now. So information rights management, what is it? So IRM is a subset of digital rights management. It's a technology that protects sensitive information from unauthorized access. It's also sometimes referred to as EDRM, which just stands for Enterprise Digital Rights Management. So information rights management, right? So protection is persisted with the data as content can travel. So now we're talking about what happens to your document when it actually leaves your library. So we just talked about SharePoint permissions, and we were able to, of course, apply permissions, for the library, for the site, but what happens after somebody downloads this thing? So IRM allows you to limit the actions that users can take with files, which prevents the accidental disclosure of sensitive data. So for example, you can limit the rights of the users who are allowed to say, read the file so that they can't take actions such as print. So now I can say, okay, once you download this document from this library, I don't want you to have the ability to print it. So that's an important piece, if people are worried about, what happens to information once someone else downloads it, because SharePoint security, the parameters of it is that it protects it while it's in SharePoint. So with IRM, you can securely share data with individuals without worrying about them misusing your files. So how is this done? So IRM actually encrypts the files and sets limits for users and allows them to decrypt the files based on the permissions that you have set up inside of the policy. All right, so how does this thing work? So in SharePoint, when you use information rights management, SharePoint is the publishing point for the document. So the protection or encryption happens within SharePoint. Once the user places the document inside of a document library that has IRM protection, SharePoint publishes the document. So you see that the key has now moved over to SharePoint. So the document goes into the library with IRM protection, right? So now this document is inside of SharePoint. Now whenever the user downloads a document from the library, it has the encryption on it because of the policy that you have set up inside of SharePoint. Now the administrator determines what libraries will utilize IRM, and users that place documents in those libraries don't need to worry because SharePoint will apply the policy that is set for that particular library. IRM is applied on the entire library, so it's not down to the individual file, so it's applied on the library, meaning that you don't have to go to each individual document and apply it. Once you set it up on the library and you drop the document in there, it automatically has it. So it makes it consistent to ensure the level of protection for the entire set. So IRM can help your organization enforce policies and govern the use of confidential information or proprietary information. So IRM protection features. So protecting docs are really simple with granular usage. So you can restrict unauthorized viewers from copying, printing, modifying, faxing, or copying and pasting the content for unauthorized use. You can also prevent an unauthorized viewer from copying, modifying, printing, or faxing, and pasting the content for unauthorized use. You can prevent an unauthorized viewer from copying the content by using the print screen feature in Microsoft Windows. You can also prevent unauthorized viewers from viewing the content if it's sent via email after it's been downloaded from the server. You can, again, restrict access to content for a specified period of time, after which you can make them enter their credentials again. So you can go ahead and you can share this document. It'll have IRM on it. It says, okay, you downloaded it, you entered your password, but say after, 2 days you want them to have to re-enter their password, you can absolutely, set that on there. There's also group protection, so you can assign a group to the publishing policy. And now IRM also has PDF support in addition to other Office formats. So there have also been some improvements here. So it's supported on mobile, so it makes it easier, especially if you have a BYOD program where people are bringing their own devices. And I did mention that it's on the library level. So a lot of times clients ask, well, am I going to have to go through my system and do it on each individual library? What if I just want this, on all libraries? So IRM does have programmability, so you can actually go ahead and use PowerShell and enumerate through all of your sites, and you can add the IRM policy to as many libraries as you want. All right, so IRM and Office 365. So in this screenshot here, I'm inside of the Office 365 Admin Center. So what you would do is go to Service and Add-ins, and then under there you'd find the Microsoft Azure Information Protection. So you'd click there, and then a screen is going to appear for you to go to the Manage Azure Information Protection settings. And then once you get there, you can go ahead and activate rights management. So let's actually jump inside and take a look in there. Okay, so I'm inside the Office 365 Admin Center here. So what I want to do again is, once I go down to settings, right? So these are settings that you have to put in place in order to enable IRM on your system prior to going to your libraries and setting up your IRM policy. So the first thing you need to do is go into Office 365. You click on the settings area, then you click on, again, service and add-ins. Oh, let me log back in. There you go, back in there. So you again go to settings, and then you go to services and add-ins, and then you go to I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. Then you would go down to Microsoft Azure Protection Services. And here you would see the Manage Microsoft Azure Information Protection settings. So I'm just going to click here. And then once you get in here, this is where you would do the enabling for Office 365. So as you guys can see, I am already activated here for rights management. So the next piece that you need to do is, now you need to go to the SharePoint Admin Center, right? So let's go down here and just click on SharePoint. All right, so you click on SharePoint here. All right, so once I'm inside of the SharePoint Admin Center, then I need to go to settings here. All right, and inside of settings, there is an area for information rights management. So let me scroll down here. All right, so information rights management. So this is where you would come and you would select to use the IRM service specified in the configuration. And then once you do that, you need to click on refresh IRM settings so that it can push the setting through your tenant. All right, so now we are finally ready to go ahead and actually take a jump inside of the site. All right, so I'm here inside the site, so I'm just going to go to my IRM library. All right, so remember that IRM is applied at the library level, so we're going to have to come into the library now and go inside of library settings to get this set. All right, so let's just go up here to the ribbon. I'm going to click on the library tab and go to library settings. In here, inside of here, we have information rights management, so let's click on that. All right, so for information rights management, right? So when you come here, the rest of the options are collapsed, right? So you have to click on show options to get the rest of them to appear. So here you can create a policy title, and you can also go ahead and add a description. So I'm just going to add a description. I'm just going to say confidential content. All right, and now this will be showed, every time someone has the file. All right, so the next piece of it. So let's go through these settings here. So we have the setting here that says do not allow users to upload documents that do not support IRM. So what we're saying here is, hey, if they're not going to respect the policy that we have in place, we won't allow them to go ahead and actually upload those documents, right? So that's the first piece that we have there. So the next one we have is stop restricting access to the library at this time. So you can go ahead and set that interval that I spoke about earlier. And the next option is for the user to prevent opening documents in the browser for this document library. So you guys know that inside of, starting from SharePoint 2013 and online, there's the WAPI frame where you can actually open documents inside the browser. So with this IRM policy, you can restrict that. The next piece of it is configuring document access rights here, right? So there are a few options here. So you can allow users to print, or you can restrict that. So this means that when a user has the document and they try to print, you can restrict it. So the print screen would show up, but there's a message there, that's blocking the content. The next piece is allow users to run script and screen reader to function on downloaded documents. So this is for users that are using, macros and items like that. So if you don't want the user to be able to do that, then you can go ahead and restrict that piece. So remember that if a user is using macros, they can use the macros to extract information. So just be cognizant of that before you make this determination. The next one is allow viewers to write on a copy of the downloaded document. So for this one, you have the option to either say, hey, once somebody has this document, if they're a viewer, I don't want them to be able to edit anything, even if it just is in their possession, or you can allow them to, add notes and things of that nature. And the next one is that after the download, document access rights will expire. So this is the piece I was talking about earlier, where you can require, someone to actually have to log in for the document, and then you can say, okay, we can cache the results for, say, a week. So I'm going to give you this document. I'm going to let you put in your credentials. It'll last for a week, but after that, I need you to resubmit your credentials. And the next section is to set group protection in the credentials interval for the group. So here, for the group, you can make them verify for a day. And then also here for allowing group protection. So inside of this, so this means that even though, this library isn't necessarily shared with this area, you can still use a group. So say one of your AD groups, you can add them here, and you can go ahead and set this policy up for them. So no matter, where the document is shared, they'll have access to it. So even if somebody else, takes the document and say, they place it on their personal drive, and then shoot it out, to this group, these people would still have the access rights. All right, so let's go take a look here. All right, so I just want to talk about SharePoint permissions again for a second. So remember we had the conversation, right? And we talked about the different SharePoint permissions inside of SharePoint. I just want to make sure I touch on, what happens and how it meshes with the security that IRM has. So you'll notice that when we were going through that actual list, it kept speaking about viewers. And remember when we went through security, we were talking about visitors having read-only, so those are the people that view. So a lot of times when I'm speaking to clients, what they'll want to understand the two, right? So they have to work together. So this is stating that when you're setting these restrictions, you're setting restrictions on users that have view permission. So if by default, if I'm inside of that owners group that we talked about, right? If I have full control, so if I have full control on the site, even though IRM's on the document, I'm going to be allowed to read the document, edit the document, copy, save, and modify permissions of the rights management content, right? And if I'm in that members group, with those edit or contribute permissions, then I'm still going to have access to edit, copy, save. I can print as well, as long as I have the print documents there, as long as that piece of it, is selected in the settings that we were just on, right? And if I am in view, then all the permissions that I have in view, if I'm saying I only have that read only, then that means that I have to fully adhere to the IRM policy. So the next question typically is, okay, so if that's the case, then how do I control this in this library? So remember earlier when we talked about inheritance, because of course, if somebody is a member of my team, and we're collaborating on SharePoint, that's what it's for. I don't want to restrict them, to have the ability to collaborate on the rest of the site. But in this particular library, what you could do is the same thing that we did earlier. So remember, we went inside of the library settings, and I can go to permissions. What I can do here in this instance, right, is I can, again, stop inheriting permissions, and then for my members group for this particular library, I can I can change their permission level from contribute to read. And then that way they'll be adhering to the policy just like everyone else. So let's go through, let's make some selections on the policy, and let's see how this works, right? So I'm just going to go to the settings again. So I'm going to say, okay, okay, so I have checked do not allow users to upload documents that do not support IRM, right? So let's see kind of what that looks like. So that's already approved. And then I also have prevent opening documents in the browser. So let's go take a look at what that looks like when someone actually attempts to do it, right? So I'm just going to go into, I have a non one here, right? So this non-IRM, so what I'm saying here is that I don't have IRM set up at all or enabled inside of this library, right? So let me go double check. So I'm going to go inside the library settings. I'm going to go to information rights management, right? So I don't have a policy here at all, right? So let's go back and let's see what happens when I actually try to go ahead and upload a document there from the site where I have an IRM policy, right? So let's go here. I'm just going to go grab the document from over there, right? So I have this guy here. It has the policy. So let's just create a new one. So I'm going to do new here. Click on new in the browser. Let's go choose a file really quickly, and I can go here, and I'm just going to pick from my blank docs. Hold on one second. All right, so I'm just going to come here. I'm going to go to my blank documents, and I have a blank one right here. So I'm going to come to this guy. I'm just going to open it. So add it in here. All right, so now I have this new blank document here, right? So let's say I decide I want to download this thing. So the first thing is, remember we turned off the preview in the browser. So you'll notice when I'm mousing over here, there's supposed to be a preview, which is standard inside of SharePoint. It makes it easier to search. It gives you a preview of the document, so you always ensure that you're opening the right document before you actually click on it. But you'll notice here that the preview is gone, and the reason for that is because I have the setting where I don't want people to be able to preview the document or show it on the screen. So in order to see this document, you have to actually open it. So I'm downloading right now. All right, so I'm downloading this guy, right? So now it's connecting for IRM. Let me move this over so you guys can see it. All right, so here's the document here, right? So it's saying for the permissions policy, this policy description will be presented here. So I have a hello guys, right? So I have a hello guys here, so I can go ahead and close this guy now, and it is inside of my downloads, right? So let me open up my incognito window. So the reason I had to separate it out is because I have global admin access. So remember earlier we talked about users only being able to have view access, for the functionality to work the way that I want it to, unless I broke inheritance on a library. So I'm just logged in as a separate user, right? So I have the IRM one, so I'm going to open up IRM. So I have the demo here, right? And then I also have the non-IRM here. So what I'm actually going to do now is say, all right, I'm going to pull this guy out. So I'm just going to minimize him. And then I'm going to take this doc and I'm going to drag it over. Like it disappeared on me. I'm going to drag it over here. I'm going to download this guy again and pull it over there. All right, so I'm here back in the incognito window now. More files, and I have read only here. So the file won't actually add to the new one because that piece doesn't accept the IRM policy that I set up. So the next setting that we had here was for us to actually go ahead and after download, the document access rights will expire in 2 days. And then we also have allow users to print no longer on the system, right? So users shouldn't be able to print here either. So the document, let's try to open this guy up. All right, we can't see it here. We get a notification that we can't open it. And when I go to do it in Word, all right, so now it's letting me know that I need to sign in, all right? So I'm going to switch. All right, so it's telling me that I need to sign in, right? Because remember, I'm in that incognito window and I am no longer that other user. So all right, so it's making me log in. I'm going to hit next here. All right, so I have to sign out of the other piece. All right, just want to launch again. It should let me log in this time. All right. Right, and then my login. Right, so it's letting me log in this time. All right, so now it's going to open that doc. All right, so now I'm here. I'm inside of the document, and I can view my permissions here. So it lets me know what I'm allowed to do with the document. And here I could also go ahead and request additional permissions. It lets me know it's in protected view and that it's under permission policy here. And we're going over here now. All right, so the document is over, so I'm going to try to save the document. Cool. All right, so I am good to go on this side. All right, for the next piece of it, so you can go through and make additional changes as well. So the next thing that we can go ahead and change here too, let's roll this guy up right here, is that we are going to now, we can allow users to print, and the next piece of it is we can go ahead and allow them to open up in the browser again. So let's just hit OK so they can do that. All right, so I'm going to go back to this guy here and just do a quick refresh. All right. And this guy should be back now. I should now be able to open this guy in the browser now. So the preview is here now that the error message shouldn't be there. So let me try to click on it, open it here, just make sure it's refreshing. Yeah, okay, so it's refreshing now. So it lets me know that I have a policy and that this piece of it is here. I'm just going to go ahead and try to print this guy too now. All right, and when I try to print, because we still have that setting on there, it's, you know, it completely makes the document blank and just leaves that permission policy at the top. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hop back over to the presentation. So over here, right, so we went through, we saw some of the settings that IRM has that we can go ahead and set up. Now, what do we need to actually go ahead and set this up inside your system? So if you guys have Office 365, right, it comes with the E4, A3, and A4 Office Online SKUs, right? So it's pretty much already there, and then to enable it, we went through those steps a little bit earlier. So the information rights protection suite comes along with that, and again, you know, just go ahead and setting up and enabling is already there. If you guys are on premise, if you have SharePoint Standard or Enterprise, it's also available there, right? So how do you go about setting that up for on-prem? So you're going to need a Windows server with an RMS server role to utilize IRM. But another option to go with this is you can utilize the Azure RMS service, right? So there's actually a free connector app, and basically what you do is, right, so the RMS server, it's a tiny application that provides an RMS proxy rather than dealing with the real RMS server. The RMS connector allows SharePoint, Exchange, and any and/or a file classification infrastructure enabled window file server to go ahead and connect to it the exact same as if you had a local RMS server. So the couple, it's coupled together. So first, it extends the same templates and RMS authority beyond your local on-prem environment, which allows a better mobile consumption of protected data while respecting the security. And it lets the Azure RMS do all the heavy lifting for you. So Microsoft takes care of all the high availability, the crossing of the domains, federation, managing the encryption keys and certificates, and any other complexities. And all you have to do is tell the supported servers application that, hey, we're going to be using this RMS authority in Azure. You can connect via that, you know, RMS connector, and immediately everything starts working. I just want you to keep in mind that there are about 3 prereqs for that, though. So the prereqs for that are that, Azure RMS has to be configured, and your SharePoint server also has to be working and online. And then the RMS connector, it can't be installed on any of the servers that it's providing services for. So if it's providing services, on your application server, you can't install it there. And if you have a single setup, you can't have it set up on that web front end. So I'm just going to go ahead and open the floor for any questions right now.
And let's take a look real quick. And there does not seem to be any, oh no, there is one question here. Does IRM break the co-authorizing of documents?
Oh, the co-authoring functionality. So you're speaking about when 2 individuals are inside of a document working on it. So no, it does not break that.
And that's all the questions we got.
Okay.
And with that, I would just like to invite everybody to our 5th annual Enverge Technology Conference. We're expecting 400 plus industry professionals, and they're all going to be there to learn the latest trends and technology updates from Microsoft, Oracle, and NetSuite, and SAP. It's going to be a great time. It's filling up fast. It's going to be May 25th at the Marriott in Del Mar, so you can sign up at enverge2017.com, or you can reach out to us afterwards and we can sign up for you. And I would like to thank everybody for joining us for our webinar. A special thank you to Matilda Miller. And if you have any questions, we will be following up with all the attendees in here, and you can ask at that time. Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you.